What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Hello, folks. Welcome back to another Better Call Saul recap video. This was episode, what is it, 11?
11.
Episode 11.
Yeah.
Titled Breaking Bad, baby. Woo! We've all been waiting for.
It's fucking happening.
And it was good.
It was great. What a fucking intro we got there.
So good.
Nail salons are gone.
What? Gone? All of them?
Yep,
What about the vending machines?
gone.
Jesus! Don't tell me laser tag.
Feds found it all, Saul.
So, this episode opens up with,
Saul's assistant.
yeah, Saul's assistant, and I was trying to find the words to kind of say what I meant, but it was like pretty much we got an info dump of like all the post Breaking Bad current events, right? All the things that are sort of left a mystery. Like we know from El Camino that Jesse obviously took off, and that the feds are after him, and you assume everybody else involved, but we get a lot of that information right in the beginning of this episode. She goes to like a payphone in the middle of nowhere, and on the other end of that payphone is Jimmy, aka Saul, aka Gene, but she's calling him Saul still.
Right.
And he's like, hey, give me the lowdown.
Yeah.
And she tells him that, the feds are still listening to her phone. Her phones are tapped at home. She says she hears clicking when she picks up her phone. She's getting followed from time to time.
The block is clearly still very hot.
Oh, yeah. The block is hot for sure.
And I'm actually surprised that the assistant is still in New Mexico. But
yeah.
It didn't seem like she needed to necessarily run away, but she did know quite a bit of the dirt that Saul was doing. And she herself was being investigated.
Yeah.
We found out that Saul put her name on an illegitimate business.
Yep.
She had to turn over those funds.
Now,
it kind of looked like she was dreading that call. And then we find out that it's Saul he's trying to get the scoop.
Seems like she hates him, obviously, but she kind of was fed up with him like during Breaking Bad. Every time we met her, I made the joke while we were watching the episode. She went from being like a bubbly, like, oh, let me decorate with all my shit, like with Kim and stuff, to just like a miserable, like hates her fucking life, but she's doing it because
very apathetic.
Yeah.
She tells us that Kim gave her a call after everything went down.
Well, there's that, but she specifically, so you mentioned like that she was on the run, right? Not that she's on the run. You're surprised that they're coming after her.
She stayed in New Mexico, yeah.
They probably set it up. We mentioned like the shredding of the paperwork and stuff at the end of Breaking Bad. They probably set it up so that she, wouldn't really have any trace back to her. But you would imagine in a real life situation, she worked for the guy. So like they're going to investigate her.
Right.
Yeah, that's probably why they just left her alone. She's small fish, and she's hoping eventually that she'll lead him to Saul.
Right.
But through this conversation, we also hear, as you mentioned, Marvin, that when the shit hit the fan, as she put it, Kim reached out to her to see how she was doing.
Still in the picture, baby.
And Kim
I thought we might just get that happy ever after you talked about Dan.
We still might. There's 2 episodes left.
But we see Saul having a maybe not so good conversation with Kim, or at least we think it's Kim. But we didn't get confirmation that it was Kim on the phone. Yeah.
So before we get into that part, wrapping up the intro here to the show, because there was a lot of stuff to unpack. Like I said, she drops a lot of info on our laps. And it's not only that Kim reached out. Kim asked about Jimmy, which he's a little bit taken back by. Made me a little bit emotional. It was an emotional scene because after all these years, Kim obviously still cares about him. And then she also mentions like what happened to some of the other Breaking Bad characters. She mentions that they found Pinkman's car at the border. So basically she says like rip junkie or something like that. Not in those gamer words, but and she says Skylar got a deal, which is really interesting to find out. Which, I mean, again, obviously,
what kind of deal?
Well, I mean,
Walt's dead.
Yeah, Walt is dead, but like
she did know some finance stuff.
she knew everything because by the time the shit hit the fan, she was like fully enveloped in the business. She was doing all like the back end like bookkeeping stuff and the laundering part of it. So
she could probably tie them to like Gus, but Gus is also dead. So maybe tie them to the cartel.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of deal she got. That's going to be the next series, the Skyler spinoff, or Walt Jr. The Walt Jr. spinoff. Flynn, there you go. Thank you so much. But this was the episode that we kept theorizing, the back and forth time jump between Breaking Bad timeline and post Breaking Bad timeline, and there's quite a few of those.
Love the back and forth. Yeah,
it's great. It's because it's color and going to black and white, very clear. The bulk of this episode, however, is focused on Gene, and he rekindles his relationship with Jeffy and their partner Buddy, and they're running some scams on literally the entire state.
Literally.
Yeah, we see over the course of the episode, Gene has concocted a plan to go after these pretty much rich assholes at bars. So we assume. He's getting them drunk, talking with them, while he himself has a little device to suck the liquid out of his cup so he can pretend he's drinking. At the end of the night, he throws them in a taxi, which is, of course, Jeffy. And Jeffy drugs them with a bottle of water that has barbiturates in it, because earlier in the episode, Gene says we need to find somebody with barbiturates. And while these people are passed out in their house, Buddy goes in and basically takes pictures of all their credit cards, their IDs, goes through their paperwork, rifles through their entire lives. So they're running some sort of identity theft scam. You could see there's a scene where they're like selling the information to some pretty shady looking dude. That's basically the bulk of the episode, and it seems like Jimmy's trying to get back to his old shenanigans. Like we said in the last episode, that was just small time, but he got a taste. He got a little taste, Marvin.
Yeah.
He's back to scheming constantly.
He's back to scheming.
Stacking
He's
up
got
his
the
money.
Bluetooth back. He's got the foot thing back. He's
the foot
basically
massager.
just Saul Goodman again right now.
Yeah, and he's got the burner phones, which we know is a staple of illegal activity. Now, the jump back in time happens a couple times throughout the episode, and that's a whole separate plot, and that is the plot of basically how Saul came to work with Walt and Jesse. Their introduction that we've all been waiting for starts with Saul being driven out into the desert in the back of their camper where they cook, and it leads up into the scene that we talked about several times on the show, the scene that seems like spawned the entire plot of Better Call Saul, where he's kneeled down in the desert in front of his grave and Walt and Jesse are threatening him, and he says, "It was Ignacio, no Lalo." And we get this like really great scene of the three of them in the aftermath of that, and Saul's sort of like looking around the RV and looking at all the meth shit, and he's putting the pieces together. He's like, "Oh, you guys make the blue shit. So you're so-and-so, you must be Heisenberg." And, he's going through all this stuff. And then there's a little funny moment where, if you all remember Breaking Bad, the RV had the notorious starting issue of flooding the engine or whatever. And there's a brief little funny moment that like calls back to that. And that's the last we see of Walt and Jesse in this episode. It was a great scene, and I'll be honest with you, like we were all excited to see them come back, but
the boys back together.
Yeah, this could be it, and I'd be happy. Like they don't have to do any more than that. I think they will because of how they were leading us on. Right. There are several other scenes set in Breaking Bad timeline, one of which is another good scene. Mike coming into Saul's office, and he's running through a list of. Sorry, go ahead. And
we found out. Well, I don't know for sure. So Mike is a PI for Saul during the initial Breaking Bad era. Did we already know this, or is this something that's new that we just find out for the first time in this scene? Because I don't recall them ever showing Mike being like a PI for Saul.
They never showed Mike be a PI, but we knew that Saul knew Mike because Walt.
Yeah, we knew that he knew him.
Walt got introduced to Gus via Saul through Mike.
Right.
So we didn't really know like the scope of their relationship, Mike and Saul, but we know when Better Call Saul starts, like we meet Mike for the first time in this show, we realize like, oh, this is how the connection came to be, and because he works as a PI for him throughout this whole series.
Right.
So that's when we make the connection. But yeah, so he's doing some PI work on some potential people he could get to work for him, some cases that he's working on. And then we get the one part of the conversation that I thought was cool where he's, Mike's like, oh, and this guy fucking Heisenberg, like, he's no good. He's a high school teacher. He's got cancer. He's a total amateur. He's not worth your time. He's going to be a waste of time and money. And, we see that Saul is kind of like interested. He sees something in Walter White. He's like, oh, I don't know about this guy. He seems like he could be profitable. And Mike's trying to tell him, like, listen, he's small potatoes, this guy.
He's bad news, though.
It was funny that he called him small potatoes because he's actually goes on to become anything but small potatoes. He topples Gus's empire. He fucking kills Mike. He gets everybody fucked up. Like, he's anything but small potatoes.
Seriously.
And then the other funny little part of that conversation, Mike says, he's going to end up either in jail or with a bullet in his head. And Saul asks him, like, oh, is that coming from you or is that coming from he who shall not be named? Meaning, like, oh, does Gus have his, like, his sight set on him? Like, he's going to fucking take out the competition? And that's when Mike is like, nah, he's small potatoes. Like, Gus don't give a fuck about him. Little do they know, Marvin.
It's got that good blue stuff, man.
What the future holds. A little earlier in the episode, Gene is pulling a scam on another, potential victim. And we find out that this victim has cancer. And there's a little moment of like regret,
sympathy,
I guess, sympathy from Gene where he's like, I feel bad. But he perceives.
I think it reminded him of Walt. And he was like,
I think so. That's kind of what I took from it. But I also feel like he actually did really feel bad because he's never really been a piece of shit. In all his scams, he's only gone after like shitty people for the most part.
For a second. He only paused for a second, and then he was like, nah, this is happening.
Yeah.
Which I think this episode ran in two parallels. It was the same basic thing, black and white and in color. Because the whole now Gene, like they're running in the present, like he meets this guy, finds out he has cancer. He's like, well, yep, we're going to take his money anyways. And then in the Breaking Bad part where, it was in the past, he's figuring out who Walt and Igor are.
Oh yeah, Igor.
And he figures out Walt has cancer, and he goes to see him anyways because he this is Saul, this is Jimmy, this is who he is. He's like, hey, these guys have cancer. We're gonna take him for what I can get out of them anyways. Like every buck counts.
The episode ends on a cliffhanger in the past. Saul going to the high school where he now knows Walt works at, and then it cuts to present day where he's going to basically break into this last victim's house, whom previously Buddy, the third guy in these schemes, decided he didn't want to go through with it because of the cancer. And as a cliffhanger, we see a little preview of the next episode where the cops are rolling up, presumably to the residence where he is.
Yep.
But what you said, Dusty, I've always taken the person, Jimmy, Saul, now Gene. They're three distinct people. Jimmy was always like almost like a Robin Hood. Like he did things that like helped people. Sort of. He was a schemer and Chuck looked down on it, but Chuck looked down on him because he used his skill set as a scammer and schemer in order to not bypass the law, but sort of like play between the gray areas of the law, but still help people because, as we see, like he started the Sandpiper case. He wanted to help those old people, right? Saul is the person that Jimmy wasn't in that, like, Saul does the work of, like, working with the fucking cartel and, like, actually helping criminals that probably shouldn't be helped and, like, that sort of stuff. And now that we have Gene, it seems like Gene is kind of like sort of hovering in like this middle ground area, or at least there's a conflict in him of like, do I go back to being Saul or do I just go back to being Jimmy? Like, which part of me do I really want? At least that's the way that I kind of took it. In terms of Kim, right? You mentioned earlier, Marvin, there's a scene where he calls Kim's office where she's working and presumably talks to her, but we don't hear the conversation. We just see it. He's like very animated during the conversation. And then he smashes the fucking phone in the phone booth. So whatever it was, the conversation didn't go good. This episode and the previous one, even a little bit, is presenting that he's sort of, I made the joke earlier that he got a taste for the life again and he wants that back. But I'm not sure if that's entirely true, because we heard from his secretary that like basically all his assets are gone. The government seized like all his fucking hidden funds, all the locations that he had under different names. They seized his accounts that he had under her name. So she says to him, the only thing that you have left is what you took with you. And she goes, I assume it's a healthy amount. And he's kind of like, yeah. But maybe not. Maybe he's like dirt broke and maybe he's trying to like earn money to try to like get his life back to be with Kim, not so much to be Saul.
Right.
I could see that being the case as well.
It's hard to say because with the Bluetooth thing and the foot thing, it seems like he's leaning more towards the Saul version of himself compared to leaning back towards the Jimmy version. But he could just be picking up little pieces,
Or it's just tools of the trade that he knows he needs to utilize, right? Or that he's used to.
Yeah. Whatever happens in present day Gene in Nebraska is not good if the cops are showing up. I don't know exactly what's happening there.
Well,
it might lead to
I have a feeling the guy's dead.
him having to,
because he was taking pills for cancer.
Right.
Gene asks him, like, are you supposed to be drinking on that medication? And the guy's like, yeah, well, you only get one go around in life, so fuck it.
And then he drugs him
and then
further,
he drinks,
so
he takes fucking barbiturates, so it's like, this dude's fucking loaded up.
Yeah.
He's juiced up.
Yeah, he's
Jimmy
probably
may have
dead.
just called the cops for him, and
that's
then
what
the
I
cops
think.
show up.
Yeah, that's what.
But Jimmy, I don't know if he stays in Nebraska. Then maybe he leaves. I don't know. I don't think he goes back to New Mexico. Obviously,
there's a little.
Maybe he goes and tries to hunt down Kim somewhere.
Yeah, there's a little plot thread I mentioned to you guys. I sent you guys a video a couple of nights ago. It's an interview with the actress who plays Kim. Her name escapes me at the moment, and Bob Odenkirk, and they're basically taking on fan theories on Twitter or some shit, and they're answering them. And some fan pointed out that the
it's Rhea Seehorn or something.
Rhea Seehorn, yeah. There you go. Thank you. A fan pointed out that the air freshener that is hanging from Jeffy's taxi rearview mirror is the same air freshener that Kim held up in court at one point in one of the more recent episodes. And then we saw it again tonight in this episode. It's focused on for like a hot second. So I don't know what that has to do with anything. What is it? New Mexico? Marvin, you mentioned it.
Isotopes.
The Isotopes, yeah.
Minor league baseball team in Albuquerque.
So there's a little bit of, I don't know what that has to do with anything, but I feel like it might. Yeah, my thoughts.
They're trying to ease Kim back into the.
Yeah, but why would it be through that way? That's such an obscure Easter egg that like only internet people will recognize. Those people that are fucking like, oh my god, doing investigations and shit. We've been right quite a bit with our predictions.
The back and forth time shit.
Yeah. We've been good at this. The one last thing I wanted to mention was back to what you said earlier, Dusty. The title of the episode's important. It's called Breaking Bad, right? And on the surface, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to get introduced to the Breaking Bad timeline as Saul and Walt and Jesse are back. But let's not forget the meaning of the term Breaking Bad. Breaking Bad is when somebody becomes bad. They break bad.
Yeah.
Walter White broke bad and started fucking being a meth fucking architect.
Meth king, yeah.
So this episode, to Marvin's point, might mean
Gene's Breaking Bad.
Once again, Breaking Bad and going back to his old ways. So
he is. Yeah. He's got a stack of cash in his closet. What are you talking about?
He's stacking up.
He's stacking cheddar, boy.
Scheming constantly.
I still think he's going to reunite with Kim. And Kim's
that was
gonna
100% Kim on the phone. I don't know how it could be anybody else. Like, unless she has an assistant that works there, because he called and he says, I understand Kim Wexler works here. Can I
Well, we
talk
don't
to her,
get
please?
confirmation.
So unless he called somebody else and we didn't see it, or
He could have just been arguing with the assistant, right? That
Yeah.
it's like, no, you can't speak to her. She doesn't want to speak
Kim
to
doesn't
you.
really have it. Yeah,
It could be.
I don't know,
So-
but pretty sure it was Kim.
One more thing we kind of skipped over. Not that important, but I thought it was cool. Huel walked.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
go. Can't keep a real G down.
No,
He's free, baby.
There was the mystery about what happened to Huel, because at the end of
That's
Breaking
right.
Bad, he's told to just stay in the hotel room, and then you never see him again. So there was always
That's
this
right.
meme that, like, to this day, Huel is still sitting in the hotel
Still
room.
sit there. He's
So good.
good, baby. He's in what did they say? New Orleans.
Yep, good for Huel. You can't keep a real G down. Is that what you
That's
said?
right. Yep.
Yeah.
Fucking Huel. But yeah, I'm staying firm. He's gonna reunite with Kim. She's gonna show him the light, and they're gonna live happily ever after. I don't want to hear anything else. Fucking Jesse
No.
gets to have a happy ending. So does fucking Saul. God damn it.
Dan's high on opium. Roast him in the comments.
Yeah.
Let him know.
Yeah. No way we're getting a happy ending.
All right, we'll see what happens. Let us know in the comments, folks, what you think about this episode of Better Call Saul, episode 11, Breaking Bad. And let us know your theories. You can also reach out to us on Twitter. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hit the bell button to be notified for future videos. And also check out our website, harshlanguage.tv. Thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next one.
See ya.
Asta.